When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. It's like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
Blog Talk Radio.
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
All right, so we forgot to fix that intro right there and add Kelvin's name in there, but we'll take care of that next week. And yes, Kelvin will be, I posted up on Twitter and I posted up on Facebook that he's going to be our new co-host. So Kelvin Gravely, he will be the leftist of the show. The reason why I wanted Kelvin on the show is that we debate every night anyway. Like, it's a constant debate, whatever's going on. Lately, it's been about race. And I just think it would be fun to add Kelvin here on the show. And Brian brought up the perfect, he compared it to Hannity and Combs. And Kelvin didn't know what Hannity and Combs. John, explain to Kelvin and explain to the audience what Hannity and Combs was.
Oh, my gosh, I missed that show. It was like two polar opposites that were like best friends. That's the only way I could really explain it. And they had a show, and it was just kind of point and counterpoint the entire time. It was great. It was great. But they were like best friends. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, you have an extreme liberal and you have an extreme conservative who were best friends, got along. The show was great. Ratings were up through the roof. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So that is
did they ever come to
what we're
consensus?
doing over here. You said what now? Oh, did they ever come to a consensus, John? You probably watched that show more than me.
That I can really recall, not a whole lot. Every once in a while, they would, like, in generality, in general, they would maybe agree on something, but mostly, absolutely not.
All right. So, that doesn't really surprise me. So that's pretty much what's going to happen on here. Lately, me and Kelvin don't really get along on anything, and I'm sure the same thing's going to happen with him and John. So it's going to make the show more interesting, and we are going to start out the conversation tonight by talking about the new documentary on Netflix, 13th, which is about the African-American prison population, and it was just a propaganda film. But we'll get to that here in a minute. But, yeah, Kelvin is going to be on the show. That's what's going to happen. He's going to be the leftist of the show. Kelvin, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience real quick?
Oh, boy. That's tough, man. Let's see. I was in the military for 5 years. I supported President Obama in his first and second election. This last campaign, I supported Bernie Sanders and then Jill Stein. I don't like Hillary Clinton, so I'm not just a blind liberal. That's not me at all. I like to weigh it and come to my own conclusion. And for the most part, I usually agree with the left on most things.
Sorry, but you said to me earlier this week when we were having a discussion that you have some right-wing views. What right-wing views do you have?
Actually, the biggest that I can think of is the death penalty. I am in favor of the death penalty because I feel that some people just aren't reformable, and they don't benefit society, and they can't be reintroduced to society. So at that stage, at that stage, they just need to be removed from society. I know it sounds harsh, but if they can't be a part of it, then they shouldn't be on the taxpayer dollar in jail.
You know what's
Do you have any other examples?
Oh boy, gosh.
That's his most right-wing view, and we still disagree on that. That's funny.
Well, okay, my other one. I'm kind of on the abortion issue. I don't think I would ever have an abortion myself or condone it myself, but I do side with the feeling that I don't know every single situation, so I shouldn't be the moral police of everybody else. I think that everybody should be able to decide for themselves what they want to do with their life. And so personally, I would be on the right about abortion, but I guess generally I would not.
Okay.
I guess complex
but
there. Yeah.
But you would still categorize yourself as pro-choice.
Yeah, I think at a broad spectrum, just on policy positions, yes, just because I don't want a blanket statement, everybody else. But for myself, I wouldn't be able to do it.
That's not a very right-wing policy, really.
Well, I mean, if I wouldn't do it myself, I consider that kind of right, even though I don't want to tell everybody else how to live
Kelvin,
their
let's
life.
Be honest
yeah.
Kelvin, let's be honest here. We need to protect all the babies. Like, let's just protect the babies, Kelvin.
It's life. Like that's the thing. Like you're advocating murder.
Well, I just told you I was pro death penalty, so I'm already advocating murder. I was in the military for 5 years.
That's the thing. I don't agree with your death penalty issue. That's one thing I disagree with most conservatives on, the death penalty.
Oh wow. Well, look at that.
Yeah, I'm against
it.
Yeah.
The one thing you go to the right on and I go to the left on. It's kind of
All right, so we're starting to figure. I think that everybody is like that for the most part, unless you're a hardcore extreme Nazi or on the right, or a hardcore extreme. What's an extreme radical leftist? Can we say that Black Lives Matter is kind of like that, very radical? Yes.
Honestly, I don't think they're radical. I don't think they're radical.
Well, they are. Well, Kelvin, when you murder somebody, you're radical. Let's be honest.
Wait.
When you murder, you're radical.
When has a Black Lives Matter spokesperson ever murdered someone?
A spokesperson has not murdered anybody, but you've had several people in Black Lives Matter. What was the chant, John? What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them now?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all these innocent police officers just die.
But
it's
I mean, I will say that wasn't spoken very nicely. I agree with that, and maybe they could have worded the message different.
Wasn't
but
spoken very nicely.
Their entire reason for gathering together as a movement was because of police brutality. So I imagine the police that they're talking about aren't exactly, your good cops running the street just doing their job. It's the guys that are murdering civilians on the street and getting paid vacation for it. I think that's the people they're really talking about when they say cops.
Okay. All right, so this is a good segue into – well, wait a minute. I'm going to let everybody discuss here in a minute because this is such a glorious way, a glorious segue into this 13th discussion. If you haven't seen 13th on Netflix, if you want to watch it, cool. If you don't want to watch it, cool. My opinion on it, it was a complete propaganda piece. They were saying about how all these African Americans were in prison, mass incarceration. It's all a conspiracy theory about how Big Bad Whitey is getting all the innocent black people and putting them in jail with modern-day slavery, and it's nonsense because if you look at the majority of these cases, if they don't already have a criminal record, they were committing their first crime. A lot of these people are committing crimes. See, the problem that I had with that documentary, Kelvin, the number one, and I will name them all off, but let's start with number one. The biggest issue that I had with this documentary is that they were trying to make every single African-American in jail seem innocent, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. Kelvin, all you have to do is don't commit a crime. It's that simple.
Yeah.
If you don't commit a crime, they got to jail.
Okay, well, think about this, though. Right after slavery was ended and abolished with the 13th Amendment, and that's where they got the title of the film from, the biggest crime that black people were charged with was vagrancy. Vagrancy just means you're homeless. So these people did not have a job and did not have a place to live because they were no longer enslaved people, and now they're committing a crime for that same thing. See, when you say a crime, you need to really look at the substance behind it because that, to me, is not a crime, even if it is on paper. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Infidelity is no longer really a crime either, but it used to be. I mean, again, things are different. You can't use that as a fact to describe what's going on today. Like, you really can't. It doesn't equate because that's not what's going on today. We're not putting quote unquote vagrants in prison. That's not how the prison population got to where it's at now.
I'm just
nope,
a little bit
right
confused.
now.
I'm just. Go ahead, Kelvin.
I was going to say right now they don't lock up vagrants. You're right. What they do is they create a drug war in which the drug that mostly the poor, aka African Americans, I said mostly, not all, African Americans used would be crack. So now crack is heavily criminalized, whereas cocaine, which is the derivative of that is more expensive and more used by white people, there's no harsh crimes for that. So you see how...
Well, you do realize, let's get to, wait a minute. As far as the crack law, the reason why punishments are more harsh on crack is because crack is easier to make, crack is easier to distribute. This is common sense. This is not a racial war on black people. This is common sense. When crack is easier to make, easier to distribute, so, of course you're going to give harsh.
It doesn't matter.
Wait.
Even matter.
If it does the same thing, why would the price matter? Why would the price matter if it does the same thing? If it's not to affect those people that can get to it?
Don't do it.
Why would the price matter?
Exactly. Why would the price matter? If cocaine and crack do the exact, if cocaine and crack have the same effect and do the same thing.
Bring up, and I'm sure John would agree with me on this, but can we please just bring up the fact that this whole discussion revolves around criminals? Can we please point that out?
Excuse me. That's the thing. It's a drug. If you don't want to go to jail for distributing or using it, don't use it. Like that's the whole point of making it a crime.
If I'm driving down the road and I just bought from a drug dealer an ounce of marijuana and a police officer pulls me over and I go to jail due to having that marijuana, whose fault is that? That's my fault for buying the marijuana. So
I agree,
but I didn't follow the law.
I'm not saying that drugs are not bad. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the statistics show that blacks and whites use the drugs equally, but clearly one group of people is being criminalized for it more so than the other. That's the problem.
That's just simply not true.
Oh, it absolutely is. You can look at any facts and figures on that one, and that's just undeniable.
We need to have a resident fact checker because that's just simply not true.
I would welcome that person.
Yes, I think we're going to look for that. John, since you're so high ranked in the company of New Media Central, look around for a fact checker. We need a nonpartisan. Make sure that they're independent. They're not Republican. They're not Democrat.
Definitely
nonpartisan fact checker. We need that. Yes. But yes, we definitely do need a fact checker. Now, the statistics. All right, here's the thing that I don't understand, though, because a lot of this film was also talking about the white man is oppressing the black man, the white man is oppressing the black man. This will never, ever, ever, ever end. We have a black president, black mayors, black attorney generals, black millionaires, black doctors, black lawyers, black neurosurgeons, black successful people, black businesses. You have the NAACP. You can spew white hate without any consequences. Evidently, you can murder police without any consequences. And even send out death threats with no consequences. Apparently, multiple people walking down the street saying that they want dead cops and nobody is doing anything about it. That is a problem.
But there's no such. But we don't have thought crime in America. Okay, you have to commit a crime. So these people speaking crazy because they're in mob mentality and they're mourning the loss of another person that looks like them from police violence. I think that's a little bit different than them going out and killing someone themselves.
Okay.
Wait, let's back up here. Wait a minute. Police violence, really? Police don't cause violence. Police cause peace. They want peace.
No. I was military police for 5 years, so I'm very sympathetic to Blue, but that is not always the case. And when you say it is always the case, you're letting these people that are not mentally stable run amok and do what they want with the bad shielding them from any consequences. And I don't think that's right.
It is extremely rare that is the case. Extremely rare.
Considering the population of the United States is 320 million, and you see a handful of these cases, I would say, they fall under that extremely rare case-by-case study.
Well, let's also be fair. A lot of these cases that you're going to bring up was actually the fault of the criminal, not the cop.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not trying to justify all of them, no.
You put your damn hands up, I
won't justify all of them. Definitely not.
Trayvon Martin got what was coming to him. He got what was coming to him.
What was the case?
No,
all right,
I disagree.
This is what I want to do. because there was a case that I was thinking about, and I can't remember what case it was. I do want to discuss that when we get to it. But there was a post that I put up, and I sent this same message to Kelvin, switched it around for a public Facebook post, and obviously I received a lot of heat from it from the black community.
Oh, boy.
And the white community, of course, was on my side because none of us can come to a solution and none of us can see eye to eye.
I'm a little unprepared for this one.
All right, so that's good. Kevin's unprepared.
I mean,
so
it was a wall of text, man. It was very long. So here's the message. It is a long message. It is a long post. Quote, unquote, and this is from me. Black lives matter and apparently facts don't. Let me break it down for you. Let's start out with Philando Castile. Yes, he was pulled over for a broken taillight. He also fit the description of somebody who had been identified in an armed robbery. Police are obviously going to be on high alert for the person having a gun when that's the case. Police get shot a lot in routine traffic stops, and yes, statistically, a lot of them are black. There was a miscommunication of what Philando was reaching for. Why was he reaching for it in the first place? But don't get me wrong, it doesn't justify the death, but the media just tried to push it as a broken taillight. It was a bit more complicated than that. Now, let's get to Alton Sterling. No, he was not murdered for selling CDs. Somebody had called the police and said he was threatening a homeless man with a gun. When the police tased him, he continued to resist arrest for said gun, which, by the way, was illegal. This guy had a giant rap sheet, including being a registered sex offender for violent crimes. This was an altercation with a felon who didn't want to go back to jail. Now, let's get to Jamar Clark. He was not shot for attending a birthday party like the media says. He was shot for preventing paramedics for assisting with an assault victim. He was not handcuffed because he refused to show his hands, and there's DNA evidence to show that he reached for a cop's gun. And the assault victim that he interfered to help, it was his girlfriend that he assaulted. Now let's go to Walter Scott. Scott tried to pull an officer's stun gun, and he ran away from the police because he didn't want to pay child support. No justice, no peace. The cop was fired for poorly doing his job, but that is just. Michael Brown, he robbed a store with violent force. He then reached for an officer's gun and punched the officer in the face after marching towards the cop in the first place. Sandra Bland was not murdered for a traffic violation. She was detained and then killed herself. Several autopsies have proved this. Corey Jones was not killed for his car being broken down. It's a horrible situation. His firearm was legal, but it was also dark, 3:15 a.m., and the cop was originally checking out an abandoned car. And an armed subject that he did not know comes out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Had nothing to do with him being black. It was the situation that he was in. Another narrative pushed by the media is racist. It's nonsense. But the cop was fired, so justice was served. Again, rightfully so, but also think about the type of situation. Think deeper than it's just because he's black. It was more complicated than that. Next, Freddie Gray. He was not killed for carrying a switchblade. First off, he fled the police unprovoked. The police did not even approach him, took off, and he happened to have a switchblade on him, not justifying it, but let's look at the facts. By the way, half of the cops that arrested him were black, and he was brought up on weapons charges in an area that had a load of crime, and it was a black neighborhood. Another thing, Mr. Gray had 20 different crimes on him and 5 open cases at the time, and by the way, he was high on opioids at the time as well. He was in a rough ride. He was not in a rough ride. He was resisting and trying to fight the cops, who, by the way, again, half of them were black. Again, high and resisting, not for a switchblade. The judge let the driver go because that had been proven. Next, Sean Dale, murdered for leaving a bachelor party. Incorrect. He left a nightclub in a high-crime area, which, by the way, was a black area. He was being patrolled by undercover cops after cops saw suspicious activity. When they identified themselves as cops, he then tried to run over the cops with his car. By the way, his entourage were all felons. Let's go to Oscar Grant. He was fighting on the subway. Cop reacted horribly, and the cop was fired. Again, more justice served that you say does not happen, Kelvin. Tamir Rice was not killed for playing with a toy gun. He pointed the toy gun without the orange tip at multiple people in the park and was scaring the living crap out of people. Multiple people had called the police. His age and identity was not known due to him having a hoodie on and hiding his face. This according to video evidence. The cops were not informed whatsoever that the gun could be fake. By the way, he was in a high crime and a black area. It had nothing to do with cops having fun killing a black kid. Next, Ramarley Graham. A unit following him because they thought they had saw a gun in his waistband and thought he had participated in a drug deal. When they identified themselves as cops, he took off running. He was shot because he refused to put his hands up and reach for his waistband. I have a problem with these cops because they were in his house without a warrant, so absolutely they should be fired. Justice did not get served this time around, but it had nothing to do with him being black.
Mario Woods was not killed for carrying a knife. He was an active gang member and was a stabbing suspect with said knife. He refused to drop the knife even after being pepper sprayed and shot with a beanbag gun. He did approach the police with said knife, and then that's when the cops shot him. Cops statistically get hurt a lot with knives, especially within 21 feet of distance. He was below 21 feet. So instead of being politically correct like President Obama liked to, they shot him so they could go home to their families. You would have done the exact same thing. Laquan McDonald, same situation as Mario Woods. Katherine Johnson, this one I do agree with Black Lives Matter on. The cops were horrible. They planted evidence, falsified reports, but the police went to prison. Again, more justice served that BLM says does not happen. John Crawford III was not killed for holding a toy BB gun. He was carrying it in Walmart. People thought it was a real gun. He then refused to comply with officers about it. By the way, nowhere near the hunting section in the store. He was in a cereal aisle. Sad story, but had nothing to do with him being black. If he would have complied with the officers in the first place, he would be free and alive. Kenneth Chamberlain, cops were horrible in that situation, even though Chamberlain wasn't necessarily friendly to the cops. But it had nothing to do with him being black. Some cops are assholes. Cops me before. Stuff happens, but I comply. He didn't. Eric Garner, the police were absolutely unnecessarily rough with Eric Garner, but Eric Garner was resisting arrest, and he's this giant guy. He had a heart attack due to being overweight. Should the cops still be prosecuted? Absolutely. That's abuse of authority in that situation. Can we please find some common ground here? India Beatty was not killed for holding a fake gun. It was 1:30 a.m., dark as hell. Cops were investigating an unrelated case. The cops then saw her getting into an argument with someone with no gun, and she threatened him with the fake gun, acting like it was real. She then refused to comply with police officers and was shot as a result. David Joseph, cop was black. Yeah. Trayvon Martin was not killed for wearing a hoodie. Is George Zimmerman an asshole? Absolutely. He should have never been following him in the first place, but Trayvon started the violence. Trayvon attacked him first. Trayvon was bashing his head in the cement. Zimmerman then shot Trayvon due to fearing for his life. Tragic, the act of violence. The more violence, both were at fault in this situation. The media is just pushing a narrative that cops are just killing black people, and it's the furthest thing from the truth. You're dehumanizing these cops with nonsense logic and no factual evidence. These cops have families, and now innocent ones are dying because of lies. Can we please go by the facts? Quit believing this narrative that's pure BS. We need to have an honest conversation, not go off of lies, or you're going to create a vibe in society that you will regret, or even worse, contribute to a race war. Be careful. Go by the facts. I'm begging you. Blacks are not being killed because they're black. It's a lie, a pure BS lie. Kelvin, your thoughts?
Brother, you blindsided me a bit. I'm not prepared for many of these, but for what I did hear from you and the ones I do know, you're painting a really biased point of view. For example, yes, that's very fact. Don't pretend like you're not. No. So Philando Castile, for example, just 10 days ago, November 16th, Officer Geronimo Yanez charged with manslaughter, okay? And the district attorney for the county said no reasonable officer, knowing, seeing, and hearing what Officer Yanez did at that time, would have used deadly force under these circumstances, okay? And in the meat of the case, it said within 62 seconds of making contact with Philando, he had fired 7 rounds into him. And at this time, Philando's weapon that he articulated he had was still in his pocket, okay? And then the paramedics that took the body after the fact checked the weapon, and the weapon didn't have a round in the chamber. And, I mean, I told you I was military police, and I know for a fact you can't fire a gun without there being a round in the chamber. That's basics of firearms. You just can't do it. And I just thought that if you watch the video, how the police officer reacted after the camera started rolling and he had already shot Mr. Castile, you seen that he was very panicked. He was freaking out. He did not show any semblance of composure whatsoever. And I think that body language tells a lot in that case, for example. And then we can go to some other ones. I mean, the Michael Brown case, I think, probably was altered.
Before we discuss any more cases, I just have, first off, whoa, that was John. That was not me with the reaction. Because you were like, yes, you are. That was not me. That was John reacting that way. So let's get that clear. Just wanted to get that clear.
No, yeah, it's absolutely me.
But,
I didn't know that there
but
was
I have
confusion there.
But I have a question though. I'm a little bit curious about something because he sat there. Kelvin sat there and said that I was being extremely biased. I was only being one-sided. I had said multiple times in this post that I was not justifying any of these deaths, and I actually agreed with Black Lives Matter on a few of them and said that police should be fired or sent to prison. So I'm a bit confused of how I'm being biased when I'm going by the police reports, I'm going by the facts, and I'm actually being level-headed and agreeing on Black Lives Matter with a few of them. So I'm a bit confused of how I am being extremely biased.
Yeah, I don't get
you
that
were
either.
being extremely biased because you listed like 30 people and you only agreed with, what, 2 of them? I mean, I think that's a pretty clear example of bias.
Well, the majority of them were criminals. The majority were criminals.
Just because you're a criminal does not mean you deserve execution without a court trial, okay? You need to go to court.
Well,
you need your day in court.
Then don't resist.
Yeah, but look, Freddie Gray had his spine severed while in custody. He was already apprehended. His spine was severed inside of custody. And you agreed with that. You thought that was fine. So he not only was he arrested and taken into jail, but his spine was severed on the car ride over. How does that occur? That's ridiculous.
He shouldn't have committed a crime to begin with. That's his fault.
It doesn't matter. Look, it does not matter if you commit a crime. The entire purpose of the justice system is so you go to court. You are innocent until proven guilty.
But Kelvin, do you realize that if he never would have gotten in any trouble to begin with, he'd probably still be alive right now? Let's be honest.
But do you realize that the entire point of the criminal justice system, so you get your day in court, you are innocent until proven otherwise by a courtroom, by a judge and a jury. He never saw either of those. He died in custody. At no time should a police be the executioner, judge, and jury.
So are you saying, Kelvin,
yes,
Wait, Kelvin, are you saying that the modern-day judicial system, let's say the system as a whole as well, do you agree with a lot of black people when they say that this is modern-day slavery?
Not so much the police brutality aspect of it, but I would say the over-criminalization of blacks, yes. Because if you look at the 13th Amendment, it's in the wording itself that slavery is outlawed apart from if you have a criminal offense. So
well, that's
you
the same way it is for everybody. Guess what? Same way with me.
Right.
I'm free from being a slave.
Yes.
It's common sense.
Right. Listen, but you have no choice. You are never going to be a slave regardless. So you aren't suddenly freed and then see people that look like you in prison more so than anybody else. That's just quite
maybe then you don't know how to abide by the law.
Well, if the law says that you can't be homeless, but you just got fired from your forced labor and kicked out of your
the law does not say that anymore. We're talking about
not anymore. But all these people grew up in fatherless homes because their fathers were in jail for wild crimes that didn't affect the entire populace the same. You see, if you have a fatherless home, your chances of being into crime are higher. That's fact.
Kelvin, check the calendar. Last time I checked, it said we're in 2016. So you cannot
So why do we still have police brutality then? If racism doesn't exist anymore, why is police brutality still a thing?
Because we're all humans and no one's perfect. But the
so
police
you agree that not all police
here.
are perfect people?
No, anybody's perfect people. There's
so you agree that police can make mistakes, right?
Well, of course they can. But I think.
All right, let's talk about. Okay, let's talk about all the white hate feud. Let's talk about the Black Panthers back in 2008 intimidating people to vote for Obama. I mean, let's talk about these kinds of situations. Let's be fair and balanced here.
Well, I mean, you listed like 30 cases there. I knew a little bit about a few other people. I mean, Tamir Rice, he was 12 years old in the park with a fake weapon.
He also had a hoodie on and a ski mask.
So because you're a hoodie, you're no longer a teenager.
Did you not hear the ski mask? Did you not hear the ski mask?
Listen, how come when
oh my gosh.
Listen. How come when the report was called in to the dispatcher, they said that he was probably a little kid? That seems pretty specific. Like they could tell. Why couldn't anybody else? Oh, I can tell you why they couldn't tell. Because they opened fire within 2 seconds of arriving on scene. 2 seconds.
But at the same time, he potentially had a firearm. Nobody, the cops were not made aware to be a fake gun.
Yeah,
they
but when someone has,
and he was
when someone has
people, scared people.
No, there was nobody in the park with him. But if someone does have a firearm,
Kelvin. Wait a minute, I'm a bit confused here because you scream evidence. No, wait a minute, because you scream evidence. You constantly scream there's video evidence that this stuff is happening. But what about the video evidence that saw him pointing the gun at multiple people? This is evidence.
I haven't seen. No, there's no evidence of him pointing a weapon at people. That's nonsense. He was in the evidence box.
There is evidence.
He was in the park.
Evidence.
Listen, he was in the park. The police pulled up, and within 2 seconds of arriving on scene, they had opened fire. At no point ever will a police officer supposed to behave like that unless it's casualties already on the scene. Okay, when I was trained, you had officer presence, so you just arriving on scene would be one step of the force continuum. Second would be verbal commands. Third is your physical. You're getting physical with them, putting your hands on them. Then after that, you continue up the chain with OC spray, baton, military working dog, firearm. And you can skip through the chain if you need to, but within 2 seconds, you haven't even touched the first one. And he's 12 years old. You, at the very least, you're going to say on the intercom, put your weapon down, get on your knees, put your hands up, something like that. You fire within 2 seconds, you didn't do anything. You opened the door and got out. Like, you were already unholstered in the car. That's nonsense.
All right, let me ask you this, Kelvin. Let me ask you this, Kelvin. Racism. As far as racism in general is concerned, do you believe that racism comes from more of actual hate of race or more from a culture standpoint?
I'd say in America it's probably a cultural standpoint. And I know the other day you were talking about Americanism, and that's becoming more and more popular. You'll see that idea of nationalism, which kind of –
absolutely.
I don't know about all that. Nationalism shows that, it's the idea that people – think that their country is superior to others. And once you have that superiority mindset, once you have that superiority mindset, everybody that's not a part of your group is suddenly inferior. So it breeds hate from the very foundation.
All Americans, though. But Americanism is about all Americans, blacks, whites, yellows, no matter who.
Wait. The thing is that our country is the greatest country on this earth. Are we great? No, because we have our problems that Donald Trump is going to fix. But we are the best that's out there currently.
And I don't disagree with that. But that does not mean that I dislike anybody who's wasn't fortunate enough to be born in the same place as I was. That's
but that has nothing to do. Here's the thing. You know what? You know why race is becoming an issue now? This is why, and because racial tensions actually got quite low for quite some time. But then it's the race baiting that brought race back. So, and this is what I always say: it's always a push and then a pull away. So when one of the races start attacking another race for things that are just obviously not true, and they went straight to race. It was straight to race thing. They never looked at any facts. They never looked at anything else. They went straight to race. That was their first thing. Oh, it was just because he's black. They didn't look at, well, maybe this was the reason or this was the reason. It was straight because this person's black. So then the people that aren't black are getting accused of these things that just aren't true. They're going to repel. Now they are upset with that race. They really are now, because this race has been accusing them of something for years that they never did. So that's why the tensions are high right now.
I think at this point people are hypersensitive, but keep in mind, Black Lives Matter has always been kind of an underground movement. It was probably bubbling a little bit since the Civil Rights Movement, but it really made its prominence. It really came out in full force and got the name after the Trayvon Martin case, when this boy, he was 17, so he's a teenager, right?
No,
still in high school.
Let's call him a criminal. Call him what he is. He's a criminal.
Why is he a criminal? What did he do that was a criminal activity? What did he do that was a criminal activity? He went to the store and got an Arizona tea and some Skittles. Is that a criminal behavior?
He was literally beating, literally throwing that guy's head into the concrete.
But wait a minute. But, John, let's not be one-sided. You can't agree with me when I say that George Zimmerman was an asshole, correct? You can't agree with me, correct?
Maybe, but you're not a criminal because
if anything, George Zimmerman is a criminal. No, if anything, George Zimmerman is a criminal. Have you seen the amount of domestic assaults he's had before and after Trayvon?
That is true. That is fact. All right. Here's the thing, guys.
That is accurate. However,
correct. But wait a minute, John. We're out of time. John, we're out of time. Black Sports Online is joining us next. We got to a debate over Twitter. He then called me out and said, let's have an actual debate. He called me a keyboard warrior. I accepted his offer with flying colors, like I'm going to pack down from anybody. So I invited him to come on the show tonight. He decided to come on, and he will be joining us next.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. The era of economic surrender will finally be over. We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism.
They have gotten the political establishment and the media establishment to become pure, wanton henchmen of totalitarianism.
If you were a foreign power looking to weaken America, you couldn't do better than Hillary Clinton's economic agenda.
I think what the Chinese have done is really smart.
The skyscrapers went up in Beijing and many other cities around the world, while the factories and neighborhoods crumbled right here in Detroit.
It's all training us to accept less, lowering expectations, a post-industrial world, a new dark age. That's what the UN Biological Diversity Assessment 1996 calls for.
When we abandoned the policy of America first, we started rebuilding other countries instead of our own.
Not a world, Winston, that gets more beautiful and more technological and stronger. A world that gets uglier and stupider and more stunted.
That the government should allow Hillary Clinton to become president of the United States.
I voted for Hillary Clinton.
Well, I voted for Hillary. I guess I have to since I'm working for her as well.
You want an image of the future, Winston? It's a boot stomping on a human face forever.
Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism.
Women are discriminated against in all of these countries she took money against. Gays and lesbians are either executed or punished severely. They're mistreated. She claims to be their champion.
Don't look at me, Winston, and see the black circles around my eyes and see how ugly and weak I am, expressing myself and dying, and I torture people 18 hours a day, and I have a horrible life. That's the beauty of the satanic evil of the priest of power, ripping apart humanity. We're here to hurt humans. We're here to suck your guts out.
Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism. Americanism, not globalism.
Yo, you want sushi? I got sushi. I got the best sushi. This area's dry, man. You know that. I know that. Ain't nobody selling but me. I got tuna. I got salmon. I got sweet shrimp. I got the finest sashimi this area has seen in years. You need me and I need you. Let's make this work. You buy some sashimi, I'll throw in some rice paper, man. Totally free. Gratis. I got everything. Even California rolls, baby.
You wouldn't buy your sushi from this guy. So why would you buy your marijuana from him? MarijuanaDoctors.com is the only service that connects patients with real doctors for medical marijuana recommendations. Simple, confidential, safe. Visit MarijuanaDoctors.com or call 1-866-996-9333. That's MarijuanaDoctors.com, 1-866-996-9333. Book your appointment today.
I have not only seen but lived the marvels of what historians have called the American century. For while I take inspiration from the past, like most Americans, I live for the future. For just a few minutes, I hope you will let me talk about a country that is forever young. Fondest hope for each one of you, and especially for the young people here, that you will love your country not for her power or wealth, but for her selflessness and idealism. May each of you have the heart to conceive, the understanding to direct, and the hand to execute works that will make the world a little better for your having been here. Renew our pledge to day by day, person by person, make our country and the world a better place to live. When the nations of the world turn to us and say, America, you are the model of freedom and prosperity, we can turn to them and say, you ain't seen nothing yet.
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
Now joining us is BlackSportsOnline and Robert. Also, Eric Chiafalo, who is on with the Andrew Powell Show with me sometimes. He's also on the line that he will also be discussing with BSO. So let me set it up and let me tell everybody how this got to be. So earlier today, I had made a comment to Chiafalo. He had got to a debate about BSO. I saw that somebody had called him a racist, and I thought it was nonsense. So, of course, I commented on it, and I thought that BSO is politically ignorant. He is not an ignorant guy, but I do believe that he is politically ignorant, and we will get to that here in a minute. And then there was a whole exchange. And then BSO had then called me out and said that instead of being a keyboard warrior, why don't we actually talk about this like men? So that is why we are on the air. Before we even get to the racial stuff, Colin Kaepernick, all this stuff, I want to start out, Robert. What is this that I'm hearing about? You were protecting Fidel Castro. Can you please explain this to me?
Well, first off, that was the original comment that brought me back into the conversation because it was a 100% inaccurate comment. Never in any of my tweets or in the post that I had written yesterday about this had I said one thing about Fidel Castro. I actually said nothing about Fidel Castro. My points and what I was trying to make was specifically about Colin Kaepernick and had little to nothing to do with Fidel Castro, just for the reasons that, I'm not Cuban. I'm not in, Miami. I'm not in Cuba. I'm not Cuban American.
Yeah, but you do realize that me and Chiafalo are completely around Miami. Me and Chiafalo soak up Miami 24/7. Miami are our people, so we understand the Cuban American population down there, and the fact that first off, before we even continue that, and before I even rip him for this, Chiafalo, what exactly did you see about Fidel Castro from BSO?
Yeah, well, first of all, hello, Robert, and hello, Andrew. I would like to just say I think I do need to apologize a little bit to Robert here because I shouldn't have said, Robert, I shouldn't have phrased it the way I did, that you've been defending Castro for 24 hours or however I worded it. The way I should have worded it is you've been defending someone for defending Castro for the last 24 hours, and that someone being Colin Kaepernick. And in Armando's story in the Miami Herald that you guys can obviously go check out, where he's talking to Kaepernick, and Kaepernick seems very uneducated on the whole Castro situation, and he's wearing his shirt. Obviously that was a while back, but now that he's playing Miami and Castro dies, this is now a topic of conversation again. And Armando is questioning Kaepernick about him wearing that shirt, and Kaepernick is coming across as very uneducated, and then now
yes.
Robert is defending Kaepernick, and so that's what really bothered me, Robert. So I apologize for phrasing it the way I did. I shouldn't have said it that way, and I was going to say that on Twitter, but I figured I'd wait till I talk to you here. But I still think you are defending someone who is defending Castro, and that's almost just as bad.
Yes.
Well, I disagree with that because, first off, I wasn't, and even in the post that I wrote, one of the things that I say right at the beginning of that post is that I had no problem with the line of questioning about Castro to Colin Kaepernick. Secondly, I said that Colin Kaepernick putting himself in this type of spotlight, that's what those are the burdens that you have to bear, that people are going to question you and they're going to disagree with you and they're going to ask you questions about things like this. So, for someone to say that I was defending him wearing the shirt or him defending his thoughts on Fidel Castro, I consider that to be incorrect. I think I had a singular point that a lot of people are either construing or misunderstanding. My point was that it's fine to critique, criticize, be upset Colin Kaepernick, wearing that shirt and saying whatever he had to say about Fidel Castro. But if you're a journalist, if you're a reporter, and you are trying to show the entire side of the story and not be one-sided, and to have, empathy for, oppression, I would just hope and think that you would also counter whatever you're talking about or whatever you're feeling by mentioning some of the positive things that Colin Kaepernick has said and, not try to call those things fraudulent, because in the mind of people that are reading this, the racist people, not saying that he's racist or any of you guys, but I'm saying the people that are racist, the people that don't care about what Colin Kaepernick is saying, they take an article like that, which doesn't speak of any of the positives, and just piggyback off of it and say, well, I'm not going to pay attention to anything that he's done, said, positive because of this singular thing that they're upset about. And that was the point that I was simply trying to make.
But Robert, what exactly is Colin Kaepernick saying in your opinion? What exactly is Colin saying? Because I'm a bit confused of what exactly he's saying. Every time I get to a racial debate with an African American, the first thing that always comes up is history. It never fails. It's always history this, history that. But nobody has yet been able to show me evidence of this racism, this white privilege here in 2016. So what exactly is Colin Kaepernick saying?
Well, I think if you are living in 2016 and if Colin Kaepernick's message, it's not a new message. It's not something that just popped up yesterday. But if you're talking about racial equality and you're talking about, police brutality, these are, real things. These are not like just made up things. These are things that we see. These are things
but Robert,
that I report.
don't you agree? Yeah, but Robert, don't you agree that we wouldn't even be having any of these discussions to begin with if you just don't commit a crime? It's that simple. Just don't commit a crime, Robert.
No, not at all. I mean, no, that's not it. I mean, Trayvon Martin didn't commit a crime.
Thank you. That's just one example. The majority of these cases are crimes, Robert.
No. He absolutely did commit a crime.
No. What I'm saying, the majority. So put it to you like this. So the majority of cases that are crimes, that are actual crimes, right? So those people should be arrested. We're all in agreement of that. If you commit a crime, you should be arrested, right? That's the way it should happen. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, or whatever.
Yeah.
So when someone like Eric Garner, who's, say is committing a crime of selling cigarettes, you shouldn't get choked out to death for that. Shouldn't be a death warrant.
First off, he didn't die from being choked out. He died from suffering a heart attack from being massively overweight. Can you prove
it
that?
was a heart attack.
Send me.
If I'm overweight, hold on. If I'm overweight, right? The only way you're saying like he was walking down the street and he had a heart attack.
Don't resist arrest, Robert. Don't resist arrest. He was resisting arrest. All you have to do is comply with the police, and you will be fine.
No. If you comply, you can. Okay, so I'm complying with the police while I'm telling you that you're choking me to death. So what? I mean, we've seen in the last couple of weeks multiple situations where people have been able to be taken alive for major crimes. That should happen. You shouldn't be choked out for cigarettes. You shouldn't be shot on traffic stops.
You shouldn't resist either. You shouldn't resist either.
Yeah, you shouldn't make the whole situation worse by resisting and trying to act all big and bad like a thug. Just comply.
That means you should get shot, though. Or you should be choked to death. So because criminals resist all the time, they don't all die.
All right, so Robert, let me ask you this: do you believe that white people are oppressing the black community? Do you believe this?
I believe that white people, it doesn't matter if they know it or not, are at a distinct advantage politically, with education, with the justice system. I think they have an advantage. And having that advantage is a part of being oppressed. Doesn't mean that they're actually doing it themselves. Doesn't mean that someone's out there like saying, I'm going to oppress, black people. But that systematic privilege is a form of oppression. And
so basically you're saying just because we exist, we're oppressing you. Just existing is oppressing you. That's exactly what you're saying.
If you don't see that, if you don't see it, if you don't see your privilege, and I'm not because
let me step. Wait a minute. Wait, John. All right. 13% of the population is black in America. 13% of that population is responsible for 50% of the murder rate. Statistically, the biggest threat towards the African American male is the African American male. Statistically, the majority of crimes come from black neighborhoods. So who exactly is oppressing who? Because it sounds like the black community is oppressing themselves, Robert.
Well, see, that's if you're looking at it. If you want to look at it just from stats-wise, you say, okay, well, that's messed up. But if you look at it like this, if you put, a certain ethnic group or race in a situation where there's less education, there's hopelessness, they aren't getting the same type of jobs and opportunities as others, then of course there's going to be more crime. There's going to be more drugs.
No, they get more opportunities than I do because of affirmative action and because of the Negro College Fund.
No, that's not. That's just throwing out just stuff. The reason those things.
It's true.
The reason those things exist is because of the distinct advantage that white people have had throughout our history.
But now they have the advantage because I had to work my butt off to go through college when I had friends that were African American and they got it all for free.
Well, Robert,
because they were African American.
You couldn't get a scholarship yourself. You couldn't get anything for free. I worked myself through college as well. I didn't have any special advantages because I went to college. Just because I was
it was available to you.
Here's the thing. The African American community has the black community. The black community has the NAACP to help black people to get through college. If a white comedian stands up on stage or a black comedian walks up on stage, makes fun of white people, there's no consequences. White hate, there's no consequences. There's also cases where black people get the job over a more qualified white person due to minority requirements for that particular company.
Here's an example.
You keep speaking. Wait a minute, John. Wait. You keep speaking white privilege, but it sounds like black people have a lot of privilege in this society nowadays.
Well, how is it privilege when you have to put in a minority system in place to get a job because the job itself is already hiring 95% white people? The media is 90% white males.
Have you ever considered that because African Americans are only 13% of the population?
I'll let you talk. Let me talk. So if a company
that wasn't me, by the way.
That was not him.
No, if a media company in an industry that's 90% white male put in a system in place to hire more minority, more women, or whatever, you're not losing a job, because of a black person who's more qualified. You've already had 90% of the opportunity before it. 90% to 10.
But listen, though. African Americans are only 13% of the population. You can't have it 50-50 because there are more white people statistically in the United States. Of course there's going to be less African Americans in media. Of course there's going to be less African Americans in government. Of course there's because you guys are a minority.
I said minority. There's as many minorities in this country as it is white people. But white people are still controlling a vast majority of these management positions, these higher positions, and so it is 50-50. I didn't say all black people. I said minorities. I said women. The media is 90% male, white male, not women, white women, black women.
Wow. Don't know what networks you're watching because I see a heck of a lot more women on newscasts than I do men. Heck of a lot more.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So just because you see on your newscast that's an entire country, go look it up. It's 90% white men. You guys are in the media.
Oh, it should be. Statistically, it should be that way.
Watch
the math
shows. Let me ask a question though, Robert. You said something about systematic racism exists earlier. Could you please show me a law, show me a bill, something that shows this, that there is systematic racism? What bill? What law?
I can do better than that. I don't have to show you a law. Because here's the thing about racism. Racism is not something that someone walks outside and say, hey, I'm a racist, or hey, I'm prejudiced, or hey, I'm stereotyping people. It's not something that is written. Nobody's going to write a bill saying, hey, don't let black people do this. Don't let, Asian Americans do this. Don't let gay people do this. That's not it. It's not something that is something that's out there. And if you couldn't tell that people feel a certain way about society, about minorities, about women, I think what happened in our election is a very good understanding of how people are feeling about society. Because all the polls...
Wait, John, wait.
I have a question, actually.
Let me finish. All the polls, everything that was said was all, it's going to be Hillary this, 85%, 75% chance of victory. All of that, all of the polls, all of what people publicly said. And then Donald Trump won in a landslide, more or less. So what the public is saying, what people are tweeting, I'm not finished, what people are tweeting, what people are saying on Facebook, all of that stuff is not necessarily true. And what people really feel and what they really think, and when people like, you guys, you talk and say, oh, well, black people had the advantage over white people. You say that with a straight face. You may believe it. So I'm not saying that you're racist. I'm not saying that you don't like black people. I'm saying if you believe that, then that's part of the systematic problem that we're having. Go ahead.
All right.
I have a question. Or go ahead.
Wait, John. Wait, John, because we need to keep this thing more organized. First off, Robert, no disrespect. You've been a great interview. It's been a great discussion, but there's times where I can't tell if you're done talking or not. So just try to be a little bit more smooth with that so I know when you're done with your statement. John, we'll get to you here in a minute. I brought Chiafalo on. Chiafalo, what else did you want to discuss with BSO?
Well, I think our initial conversation that had begun yesterday was regarding Stephen A. Smith's video and the comments he made. And Robert, like you mentioned earlier, how you didn't appreciate the way Armando went about his article, where he sort of wrote it in from one perspective without showing all sides. I felt the same way whenever you first tweeted out the video yesterday, and then you quoted the tweet and you put your 2 cents in. Basically, I don't have the tweet in front of me, but it was something like saying that Stephen A. Smith is telling black people that they need to beg white people for their respect. And I think if you...
It's say beg. I never said beg. I never said Stephen A.
Okay, like I said, I don't have the tweet directly in front of me. I can go pull it up and just see what it was, but... Anyways, I just felt that Stephen A. Smith, I don't see how you could watch that video yesterday of his comments and then completely disagree with what he was saying and then construe them in a way, because you ended up construing me this way of begging and pleading, where no. Stephen A. Smith is not saying that at all. He's just saying, in any facet, you definitely said that. You said that about me. You said something about how black people need to beg white people is asinine.
No, I said I wouldn't have to beg. I'm not going to beg and plead and try to appease white people. I think that's
which is exactly yes.
Hold on, that's me.
Go ahead.
I didn't see Stephen A. though. So that's where the difference is. I can have like you can have an opinion. That's great. I can have an opinion too. I would not misquote Stephen A. Smith because that's his opinion. I said what he said. I did not misquote him. I said what he said. He said not offend. Those were the words that came out of Stephen A. Smith's mouth. We have to be careful not to offend white people when we're talking about racism. That is an exact quote. I never said beg. I never said please. I said that's how I felt. Like, I don't feel the need to beg and plead or not offend or whatever. I got his quote correct. So when you take something that I said that he said correctly and then say, well, you said Stephen A. Smith said this, then how can we have a discussion about it because you're not hearing, you're saying that I'm saying something that I didn't say. That's what I'm saying. If you have a different opinion than me, that's perfectly fine. I don't have issues with that. What I have issues with is when you say stuff like you said you misquoted someone when I know that I didn't, say that. And that's what irked me about that.
Well, again, listen, I totally understand it. If I'm saying your tweet again, I don't have it directly in front of me.
Wait a minute, follow. It sounds like you've gotten a lot of things wrong. Did you get the thing wrong too about somebody calling you a racist? Like, what's going on with your factual evidence here, Mr. Chief Follow?
No, I'm not getting things wrong. But again, he tweets out what you tweeted out, the video of Stephen A. the very first time you tweeted it out, and I will try to pull it up here. But it's very misleading what you say about the video.
The exact quote. That's the quote.
All right,
the quote is exactly what I said, that black people have to be, careful about, and not offending white people when talking about race and racism. And then,
white people don't? White people don't?
No. What I'm saying is we're talking about, you're saying I'm saying something that I didn't say. Now, when I went into the article, I explained it. I understood exactly what he was trying to say. I didn't agree with the way that he said it. I didn't agree with the wording of it. I think we all should treat each other with respect, and we should all not want to offend anybody when we're talking about, race or racism or anything like that. But I don't feel like as a black person that, telling me I shouldn't offend white people, I got to be real careful about how I talk about race and race issues and stuff like that. Well, sometimes you just got to be blunt. And you can't sugarcoat things.
I agree.
And that's going to make people uncomfortable. And
so it's okay for white people to be the same way?
I think white people should say whatever they really feel. And,
okay. That's fair. That's fair.
And if you feel a certain way, I would prefer you to say the way that you really feel.
Okay, then let me tell you how I feel.
Okay, go.
Let me tell you. Here's the question I was going to propose just a little bit ago. Black entertainment television is racist to me. I find that highly racist. If I was to go and start a network that was white entertainment television, that would never fly. Never, ever fly. I would be called a racist. But black entertainment television is offensive and racist to me. I have yet to have any African American that will admit that is true. But it is true. It's a double standard. It's a double standard. Explain to me how it's not.
Okay, CBS, NBC.
There's African Americans on ABC.
Oh, wait, do you want me to explain or are you going to cut me off? I didn't cut you off.
Let them talk, John.
NBC, ABC, CBS. These stations all started back in the 30s and 40s or whenever TV came about, right? There was no black people. For years, decades. Same thing in movies. Same thing with colleges. That's why there's historically black colleges, because black people obviously wasn't allowed to go to predominantly white colleges. So in entertainment and television, as the years went by and there was, very few, if any, minorities or blacks on these majority white-owned stations all across the country. So what do we have to do if we want to get ourselves on TV? We have to create our own. We have to create our own because we come from a place where there's not a lot of opportunities for us. Now, do they have to start BET in 2016? Probably not, because, like you said, there's blacks on TV, there's black, sitcoms and everything like that. But you have to go back to the reason why black people had to do this, why we had to create our own network, why we had to create our own colleges, why we had to create, our own website. It wasn't because we wasn't, we had a bunch of opportunities and decided to do it to be racist. We did it because that was the only way that we can get ourselves on TV, online, get an education. And that's because of the country that we live in. So to say that something like that is racist because of the fact that the reason that it was created was because of a racist country, we're only talking like 40, 50 years, 60 years when this was all happening. It's not a long time ago. It's not like a century ago while all of this was happening. It's ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing.
Wait. John,
started in the 80s.
John, we're out of time. Kelvin did not get an opportunity to say anything. Last question goes to you, Kelvin, if you do have a question. We got to end this interview. But do you have a question, Kelvin? Kelvin?
I think he got dropped.
Okay, I guess Kelvin is not with us.
Hello?
Well?
Eddie, you hear me?
There you go, Kelvin. There you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, my bad, my phone was still muted, but I'm the liberal guy on the station, so I didn't find a whole lot that I disagreed with Robert on, and I didn't want to, ruin the little chemistry going, so no, I didn't have any questions against him.
All right, well, Robert from BSO, Black Sports Online, go ahead and plug your website, your Twitter, all that good stuff, Robert.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, never have a problem speaking to people that have differing opinions. The website's really simple. Black Sports Online gives an opportunity for minority and women reporters that wouldn't have those opportunities in mainstream media to make a name for themselves. The Twitter's at BSO, and everything else can be found at Black Sports Online, the Facebook and the Instagram, and I can be followed on Snapchat at Robert Littal, Litta.
All right, we do appreciate you joining the show, Robert. I also like to appreciate Mr. Eric Chiafalo for also joining the show. Eric, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what you got going on and where they can check you out to find.
Oh, yeah, man. You can check me out on Twitter at Chiafalo Sports. The rest of the stuff's local in Texas here. If you're local in Texas, you can catch me on Sports Zone on North Texas Television, as well as Mean Green Game Day on North Texas Television. That's where you can find me.
All right, we appreciate it, Chiafalo.
Thanks, fellas.
Hey, Robert, I just want to say I love the way you guys have your website set up. I checked it out. Your website is set up.
Robert's
okay. Well, for people that are listening, the website is actually set up very great. I love the way he had it set up. His theming, it's very simple and easy. It's a great website.
All right, so the complete first hour of this show was about race. Up next, we're going to get to stuff a little bit different. Jill Stein, there's some other stuff going on that I got to look back at the list. But we'll get to all that next. We're not going to have our regular commercial break. I do want to play this Steven Crowder, who debunks Black Lives Matter, and then we'll be right back.
Black Lives Matter. Facts don't matter. Right now, the narrative that is being set is that the system is inherently racist, white privilege, yada, 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 and when cops see any young black man, they go into Lloyd Christmas mode. To the point where places like Black Lives Matter, leftist websites, even MTV News are pushing this idea that innocent black men are being shot for no reason at all. Now, the purpose of this video is not to justify nor condemn any of the deaths that occurred during these police-civilian interactions, but to provide you with the context that MTV News and Vox and HuffPo refuses to. Facts don't matter. Let's just use this video from MTV News that's being circulated to start. All right, the situation with Philando, we don't really know a whole bunch yet. That didn't stop MTV News from putting it in a video, and it seems to be a really horrific accident, and hopefully justice will be served when the information comes out, but we do know that he wasn't shot for broken taillights. He was shot during an altercation where he was pulled over because he matched a description for a suspect in an armed robbery. Police were on high alert for a gun. Police get shot in routine traffic stops all the time. Statistically, yeah, it happens a lot at the hands of young black men, and there was a miscommunication with Philando reaching for what he claims to be his wallet or ID, and the cop thought was a gun. Now, that doesn't mean that any of this is justified or it's a good situation, but to simplify it to shot for broken taillight is deliberately misleading.
Clearly, Alton Sterling wasn't shot for selling CDs. He was shot because someone called in a report that he was threatening a homeless man with a gun. He was tased first, and he continued to resist arrest, and he had a firearm on him, which I'm guessing was illegal because this guy had a rap sheet a mile long, including being a registered sex offender and having done time in prison for violent crimes. This wasn't a routine pat-down. This was an altercation with a longtime felon who didn't want to go back to the slammer. Is it unfortunate? Yes. Was he arrested and shot for selling CDs? No. Only Mr. Clark was not shot. For attending a birthday party, he was shot for preventing paramedics from assisting with an assault victim. He wasn't handcuffed, he refused to show his hands, and there is DNA evidence showing that he reached for a cop's gun. He wasn't there to play balloon tricks. Almost forgot, little tidbits. The assault victim that he was interfering with the police trying to help, it was his girlfriend. Yeah, he was the one who assaulted her. What a gem. But by all means, please continue with the narrative that cops are simply out there hunting down young black men because they're attending birthday parties and selling CDs. I hate you. What they don't tell you is Walter Scott tried to grab an officer's stun gun, and he did run away from the police because he didn't want to pay child support. That being said, the cop acted poorly, but no justice, no peace. Wait, there's justice. He's being charged with murder. The system worked. Okay, Michael Brown was not shot for stolen cigarillos. What happened at that convenience store was a robbery, not shoplifting. There was use of violent force. He was identified as a suspect in that robbery. He reached for an officer's gun. But hands up, don't shoot! His hands weren't up. He was punching a cop in the face and reaching for his gun. When that happens, sometimes officers are trained to shoot. Are there several points where this didn't have to escalate? Of course, but the idea that a racist cop picked off some gentle giant in Michael Brown is entirely inaccurate, as the rest of these examples. Sandra Bland, traffic violation. To the untrained, uneducated eye, that looks terrible. She was murdered for a traffic violation? No, she was detained and she killed herself. A lot of people want to say it's a conspiracy. No. Third-party autopsy results revealed that, were consistent with that, and there was marijuana in her system. No, I'm not saying that all people smoking joints should go kill themselves. Just, if you're watching this, go get a snack. Again, he wasn't killed because his car broke down. This was a horrible situation with a cop who, by the way, was fired after. It's important to note that he was fired for not doing his job well. He thought a car was abandoned. It was 3:15 a.m., dark outside. Mr. Jones was there, and he did have a legal firearm, but you're a cop. You're looking into what you think is an abandoned car in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden, you're confronted with an armed subject. So the cop was fired, and it seems rightfully so, but try and think about this situation. He didn't go into it shooting a guy because he was black. He probably went into it a little bit nervous in a bad area of town at a dark time of the night, and he had stories in the back of his head from all of his friends in the force who had died, who made a wrong decision, guy pulls out a gun, they're dead, and someone has to go explain to their wife and kids why daddy's never coming home again. Again, he was fired, but let's try and see this as more than car broke down, he was shot because he was black. Freddie Gray was not killed for carrying a switchblade. Okay, first off, he fled the police unprovoked. He saw the cops, they looked at him, boom, the kid bolted, and he happened to have a switchblade on him. Again, not justifying all of the actions, but half of the cops who arrested him were black, and he was brought up on weapons charges in an area that is notorious for high crime. Freddie Gray had something like 20 criminal cases against him, 5 open at the time of arrest. By the way, when he was high as a kite on opioids and I think it was pot in his system. Now that matters because the argument is that he was killed in a rough ride in a cop car, by the way, with half the cops who were black, and he died 7 days later in a trauma ward. But the fact that there was a struggle and he was high as a kite can certainly lead to one being more likely to be injured, especially considering that a judge let the driver go. Does it mean that mistakes weren't made? No. Does it mean that this death was warranted? No. But he wasn't shot for having a switchblade. Sean Bell for leaving a bachelor party. Well, he was just enjoying his night. Except what actually happened is he left the club being patrolled by undercover cops. He made a run at the cops when they identified themselves openly as cops, and the members of his entourage were known felons. Dang, most bachelor parties just have male firefighter strippers. Female. Oscar Grant. I didn't finish Fruitvale Station because I found it incredibly boring. It appears that this is a case of a cop not doing his job well. For that, he was fired. So, I'll give you this one, MTV News. Except Tamir Rice wasn't killed for a super soaker in the park. He was aiming a firearm replica with the orange tip removed at people in the park. His age was not determinable at the time, as you can see by this video, and officers weren't informed that the gun might have been fake. Is it a horrible, unfortunate situation? Yes, but they didn't say, hey, you know what would be fun today? if we go kill a black kid for Nerf?
You are now listening to Unpopular Popularity with Andrew Powell and John Stutsman here on New Media Central.
All right, so we're back. What are we getting to? I think we should shift away from race because there has been a lot of racial discussions in this show, but I don't mind talking race. John, do you like talking race? I mean, I know Kelvin does, but do you genuinely enjoy talking race like me and Kelvin do?
I actually do. I'm actually kind of passionate about it because I feel that there's some racial disparities towards me. Like, I feel like people are being racist towards me now. Like, so I do kind of like talking about it, and I had a list of things because I did some research on that 13th thing, and I had several cases where that was just flat out false. But man, it would take me forever to go through it. That's a show on its own of me going through and pointing out all the false accusations in that documentary that really was not a documentary. So I'm okay with moving on.
I want to ask Kelvin, the liberal. Let's start off with the liberal as far as this discussion is concerned. Kelvin, what are your thoughts overall on the death of Fidel Castro?
Well, I'm not the most educated on Mr. Castro. I've heard a little bit on both sides of the spectrum, that he was a terrible dictator and a tyrant, and then on the other side that he worked for the people and really helped to improve the education system in Cuba. And, they went from almost complete illiteracy to the point now where their education in Cuba is so amazing that the medical field there is one of the highest in the world. So, I mean, I've heard both sides of it. I really don't know what to think of it. I mean, there are better and worse people still alive. I don't think he was all that noteworthy and, needing of all this attention even after his death. The government he put in place is still there. So, I mean, no need in celebrating. Nothing's really changed, He stepped down from power in 2008. His government system is there. So, that's my thoughts on it.
John, your opinion on Fidel Castro?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Kelvin's right. Like, the government is still there, and that's the problem. I don't care benevolent. Whether you think the guy did benevolent things or not, a dictator is a dictator, and it's never good because you're not taking into consideration the voice of anybody. I'm not for a pure democracy. We are not a pure democracy in the United States, and that's great. But you have to take the consideration of your people at some degree. And in a dictatorship, you're just not. But no, I'm glad another evil person was off the earth. Eventually, it was going to happen. That kind of government's still in place. They might have good health care, but no one there can afford it or use it.
It's free. So, it's free to them, so they don't need to pay for it.
Well, yeah, but it's there's costs. You just don't know the costs that are involved. That's the problem with the free healthcare argument.
I smell a debate. So let me hop in here before this debate begins because I can already feel the aggression from Kelvin and John is building. So, let me stop you guys right there. As far as Fidel Castro is concerned, I do a radio show, strong Miami audience, a lot of Cubans that I consider friends now through meeting them with the show. And just some of the stories that I hear from them about how scared that their parents were and what they had to go through with the stories that they were told by their parents and even their grandparents about Fidel Castro and living in Cuba. When I hear these stories from all these individuals, I can't help but to think this is an awful individual. Why would anybody honor him? And I am not going to sit there and honor him, especially when the Cuban people themselves are do you guys realize that I was texting so many of my Cuban friends last night that are still in South Florida, that are in South Florida, asking them what they thought about this, just because I was curious to see what everybody was thinking about, and everybody down there was happy. They were celebrating. It was genuine joy. It was happiness that yes, he's finally dead. He's gone. But what Cuba still has issues. Cuba is still treating its people not so good. Jose Fernandez, one of the late Miami Marlins pitchers now, the tragic story about he wrecked his boat and all that. That's a completely different story. I mean, he came from Cuba. He wasn't even supposed to be in the United States. He made it over here and became a millionaire. He accomplished the American dream, which also proves that this whole racial inequality BS, it's just BS. Because he came out of nowhere, came from oppression, came from communism, and then stepped into the plate and became a millionaire baseball player. It's absolutely incredible. So you will not hear any positive words from me about Fidel Castro. I will not sit here and support a communist. I will not sit here and support an oppressor. And I will not sit here and support a murderer. Now, somebody earlier was accusing me of being a hypocrite because I voted for Donald Trump, but yet I do not like Fidel Castro. If anybody would like to give me a list of people that Donald Trump has killed, oppressed, or any of this nonsense, then I would agree with you. Other than that, it's just pure BS lie, and you're just trying to serve your little agenda. So I'm not going to sit here and honor any Cuban or any communist.
Yeah.
Especially when his own people, all of these Cuban people are telling me these stories. No. So to all the people who, who are out there honoring him and actually saying positive words about this guy, saying that he did this and he did that, he's a horrible human being. He killed people at the end of the day. I don't care if he has the economy number one booming. I mean, just say that country great, like Donald Trump great, better than Donald Trump great, better than Brexit great, better than this. I don't care what he does. I don't care. He's a murderer, and that it's plain and simple. So I will not be honoring Fidel Castro. I do not like Fidel Castro. But off of that, Kelvin, I need to ask you something. Jill Stein is doing these recounts. Why? I don't know why Jill Stein is doing these recounts. I do not like the fact that she's doing these recounts. It's nonsense. She is struggling at 0.07% in the polls. She didn't even make it to 1% in the polls, which I find absolutely hilarious. But now she is demanding recounts, and she is working with Hillary Clinton's team on these recounts in these states. Do you care to explain why Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton are working together, Kelvin?
Okay. Well, just as you know, 0.7%, I'm pretty confident that she knows that no amount of recounting in 3 states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, is going to put her over the edge. So I don't think that's the issue at all. I think the biggest issue was that there were some voting anomalies that were brought up. They said that the voting machines came out with drastically different results than the paper ballots. So it's not guaranteed that there's an issue, but just recount just to be sure. And I mean, just so you don't completely paint this as a left-only issue, know that the Reform Party, which is led by a guy named Rocky De La Fuente, it's a very right-leaning party. They also supported the idea, and it was the Green Party originally, along with the Reform Party, and then Hillary Clinton jumped on, and took the idea as she did most of Bernie Sanders' platform. So I wouldn't say that they're working hand in hand right from the get-go. It's just Hillary saw that this was going to be a popular thing and wanted to pretend that she was on the right side of history like she never is. And another thing, just if Trump feels so secure about his victory, I mean, which he should, since Hillary Clinton, which was the closest opponent to him, already conceded, he should feel very secure in his victory. But if he does, then I don't see what there is to worry about. Like, what is he scared about? Why is this even worth mentioning?
The reason why
I don't think he's scared.
Why he is wait a minute though. The reason why he's so bothered is because he's sitting here trying to get his transition team ready to go, for the White House, preparing his cabinet. He's trying to unify an already divided country due to Obama's 8 years of everything is racist. So all white people have this building resentment that keeps building because the left continues that argument. But he's trying to do all this stuff, make this country great again. He doesn't need to be worrying about the election still, Kelvin. It's been nearly a month. We need to move on. We need to make America great again. Let's be honest here.
I mean, truthfully, he's already won, so there's really no reason for him to even comment on this.
Okay,
if I had won so handily, I wouldn't speak on it.
So what is the point of Jill Stein bringing this up then? What is the point? Why
because there were voting anomalies, and as you know, if she was to get a simple 5% of the vote, then she would get federal funds for the next election cycle.
Kelvin,
so it doesn't make a difference as far as winning.
She's not going to get 5%.
But it doesn't matter as far as winning. It only matters.
Do you realize, Kelvin, that Gary Johnson only got 4% of the vote? So how was Jill Stein going to get 5%?
But Gary Johnson did not have a good platform. Gary Johnson was competing with Trump, who won the election. Actually, she did. That's the difference.
Here's the
That's
thing.
the difference.
And here's the thing.
But look,
here's the thing. I used to be a fan of Jill Stein. I used to like Jill Stein's platform before I eventually realized, wait a minute, I'm a taxpayer and I'm seeing this is really starting to affect me. I'm backing the bleep out, and I'm shifting to the right because.
But if you liked Bernie Sanders, he had the closest.
And Bernie Sanders is a fraud. And Jill Stein is a
absolutely.
fraud. But let me. But
you
let me
supported Bernie full force.
Oh, absolutely, and I regret it. I wish I would have hopped on the Trump train from day one. I made mistakes. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have supported that communist fraud shield, and you know this, Kelvin. I've told you this multiple times. Why am I going to support a sellout? Can you just please be honest here? He is a sellout. Yes, there is no factual evidence, but why? Do you realize that he is pretty much the mascot for the Democratic Party? He doesn't even have any real power. Like, they're using him.
But let's get back to the subject here. Let's get back to the subject here of this recount. Okay, here's the deal. And I will give them credit that they're funding this themselves so the taxpayers don't have to pay for this. That's good because recounts are very expensive.
Yeah.
But here's the so I'll give them credit for that. But she's not going to get anything out of the recount. And Andrew's absolutely right. Donald Trump is not concerned about this election. It's done. It's over. But the thing is, everyone else needs to be over it. We need to move on. They're just doing this to cause more turmoil and more angst and to keep that fire going against Trump as he moves into the White House. That's the only reason they're doing it. And it's giving false hope to people as well. If they realize it's not going to change the election, then that side, the Jill Stein and Clinton people need to come out and say, hey, look, we know this recount is not going to change the election. We know this. That's not the purpose of us doing the recount. The purpose of doing the recount is to, make sure that everyone's voices was heard correctly or whatever crazy idea they have. That's what they should say.
Well, that's the thing, though. They did.
But they're not saying
say that it would. Yes, they are. No, they are. They were saying that it is not meant to affect the outcome of the election. It's not meant to benefit or harm either side of it. It's to correct the voting anomalies from these outdated voting machines. That's all it is.
Yeah,
and that's why. That's why Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton didn't jump on it at first.
Yeah, well, you're right. If that really is the platform, though, then they need to, and that they've said that, then they need to make it a lot more clear because it has not been clear. It has not been said loud enough. Because there's people out there getting false hope.
Well, the media is only going to report the talking points, the stuff that'll sell the papers and get people to view their website. So they're going to only tell you half of the story and the half that's controversial. They're not going to tell you the details like that.
Sure, like they're trying to sell you the narrative that Donald Trump is concerned that he's not going to win the election.
Well, I mean, I'm going off of his Twitter feed. He's the one that spoke on it first. Nobody asked him his opinion. He spoke on it on Twitter. Personally, if I had won, there's no way I would be even entertaining this nonsense. I would be totally content in my win, and I would be planning for the future. And there's no way I would even think of this. That would be ridiculous.
Part of that future that he's planning for is to heal these wounds that they are pouring salt on. He's wanting to heal these wounds, move on, and unite. And all they're doing by this whether they're doing it as benevolent or not. The only thing that they're doing is pouring salt on those wounds. It's like they still don't understand. It's like they still don't understand how Clinton did not win. It's the same thing. They just don't get it, and it's that disconnect.
But look at it from a different perspective. If this recount is done and Donald Trump, keeps his overall majority or whatever as he will, which I'm not even concerned about that. That he keeps his majority as everybody suspects, then that will just do nothing but confirm to everybody without a doubt that he did win. So again, you can look at it in both ways. He should be happy about it.
The people on the left are going to be even more salty. They're going to be even more
There's a recount done.
Yeah.
Can you agree, Kelvin? Can you agree that the left and I've been just sitting here, I've been quiet listening to this debate because I've been fascinated by it. Agree at least to a certain extent. You don't have to agree 100%, but can you at least agree to a certain extent that the left is not all of them, but a strong majority of them are just a bunch of sensitive, emotional, irrational, illogical people? I mean, don't you agree with this to a certain extent?
No, I think that's I think that's a people thing in general. You'll have people that are irrational on either side, but if you're looking at illogical, then you could look at the party that practices anti-intellectualism, and overall, that is not the left.
They do not practice anti-intellectualism.
No, yes, they do. The Secretary of Education that Donald Trump just picked up, I believe it was today, she is a creationist. There is no further you can get from anti-intellectualism than your Secretary of Education not believing in evolution.
Here's the difference,
wait a minute.
though.
Wait a minute. Wait. Are you saying that it is impossible for a Christian to be intellectual?
Absolutely.
That's not what I said.
But here's
it's
the
not
thing.
what I'm saying.
But that's
I'm
what
saying she believes creationism.
It's definitely.
She believes in creationism and denies evolution, despite all the facts.
Matter. Hey. No, but
it does. Kelvin, she's the Secretary of Education.
Listen,
yes, it does.
Kelvin, listen to me. She can believe whatever the hell she wants to believe. I don't care as long as she runs the education system the way it needs to be.
Freedom of religion, baby. Freedom of religion.
Well, there is freedom of religion, absolutely. But here's the thing. I don't care what she can believe. She can believe in the flying spaghetti monster for all I care. That doesn't mean she's not going to be good for the post. My thing is that But here's the thing. She's good, and the reason why it's good is because they believe in the federal government having their hands off, so that the local schools and the local level, they can decide how to teach their children the best way, the way it should be. Because right now it's not happening this way. Right now, all the funds for public schooling are tied to federal laws. So if this school doesn't go by this federal law, guess what? They don't get this hunk of money. If they don't go by this federal thing, then they like the school lunch program. Exactly. If they don't follow Michelle Obama's stupid, retarded.
Whoa! Do you know that the biggest change? The biggest change.
John, can we please not use that word retarded? Can we please not use that?
No. I will always use that word. I've defended myself on that word
a
million times.
No, we don't need to be. No, we do not need to be using that word. We don't.
I'm sorry. That's something that I may say again. I cannot tell you that I won't. That is a word I've defended myself time and time again.
No Child Left Behind. Who implemented that policy that got the federal government into the education sector? Who did that?
Yeah, no, I know. You know what? No Child Left Behind did not work well. It didn't, because you know why? It didn't go far enough.
But that
I will
right there is why the federal government was in the state's business to begin with. That right there was a huge step for the federal government.
But it started way before that.
If you're talking about small government and the federal government taking its hands out of the state's priorities, then No Child Left Behind was over the line to begin with. It's not that it didn't go far enough. It went too far. There's no way that should have been a program at all, especially by Republicans that say that states' rights are important.
You know what? Something had to be done. And I agree with you. No Child Left Behind did not work right. But it didn't also get the buy-in that it needed to ever work right to begin with. Here's the thing, though. There needs to be choice. There needs to be school choice. There has to be school choice. There has to be. It's the only way to do it. People should be able to shop for their schools like they do anything else, and they should be able to go to the school that is the best fit for their child. That's just the way it is. The money follows the kid. It's perfect, and it works here in Indiana. In Indiana, the voucher system works extremely well. Look at the state of education in Indiana.
We have gotten completely off of topic. We went from the recount that we discussed education. Moving on.
Oh yeah.
There have been more talks of into the mainstream media of the alt-right. First off, Kelvin, are you familiar with the alt-right?
Very vaguely. I did watch a video the other day with a guy named Richard Spencer, and I mean, I think at some points he's claimed to be the founder of it, but he seems to be a pretty educated guy, and I heard him speak a little bit about it, but that's as far as I've gotten. So.
Yeah, I don't think that there's an actual founder of the alt-right. I don't believe that
I don't believe there is
true.
Either.
I don't either, but that's what I've heard he claimed. So.
The alt-right is a bunch of different forms of people. Not all of them are racist, but it's a bunch of forms of different people. John is a member of the alt-right, and I'll get into why here in a different. Well, you are, because you disagree a lot with mainstream conservatism, and that is exactly what the alt-right is. It's a bunch of people who disagree with mainstream conservatives about stuff. And for the most part, don't you disagree with mainstream conservatism?
I do.
So that would make you a member of the alt-right.
Well, I mean, technically, I disagree with mainstream conservatives.
Well, you have to be a right-winger, of course, in order to be part of the alt-right. That's part of the reason. That's part of the reason why it's called the alt-right.
I was just giving you a hard time, man.
That's funny. But
John, wouldn't you consider yourself a part of the alt-right?
I mean, it's a label, and I just don't really do it. But I don't necessarily consider myself a Republican, to be honest with you. I believe in common sense, and I think some of the alt-righters are going too far.
Wait a minute, though. You don't consider yourself a Republican because I'm still a registered Democrat. I have not changed my affiliation.
Oh wow!
Excuse me. Affiliation as of yet, but don't get me wrong, I will be changing my affiliation. I will not be a Democrat. I'll be damned if I'm a part of that corrupt party.
Sure.
But one of the biggest things of why I have fell in love with the Republican Party, and I've told Kelvin this before, the party of personal responsibility. There's something about taking control of your own life and working hard instead of blaming racism on everything. Take control of your own life, work hard, and get to a successful position. Ben Carson, for example, a black Republican, he grew up in the slums of Detroit, Michigan, which is one of the hardest neighborhoods all across the country, especially when we're talking about black neighborhoods. And he eventually became a neurosurgeon and was running for president of the United States. But
not just a neurosurgeon, one of the best in the world.
The party of personal responsibility. But that's one of the biggest reasons why I want to be a Republican now. The party of personal responsibility, and I like the way that Donald Trump is transforming the party into more of a nationalism representation rather than globalism. Because let's be honest here, the Republicans have turned to a little bit of a globalist party, and Trump is changing that, where everything is going to be about America first. So with all this going on with the Republican Party and the way it's transforming, John, it might be time to join the GOP.
No, here's the thing, and I'm registered Republican, and I am because mainly for the primaries basically, and I wanted to make sure that Trump got his vote in the primaries, but. The thing is, and you're right, there is some globalism going on in the GOP, and that's the thing. The Trump is not really a Republican. He is his own breed of, and it's not alt-right either. I don't want to say
it's his
alt-right.
But wouldn't you agree that the Republican Party is now his party? This is his party now.
It is. It won't be the Republican Party. It won't be the Republican Party any longer. I'll agree with that. It is his party. I think we're going to see something else kind of emerge, a new terminology for it that's not alt-right, and it's not going to be, the GOP or the Republican Party either, because the Republicans they still reject the basic tenets of it. And one of the great things I like about it is that for once we have someone that goes left just enough on the right issues and goes right just enough on the issues, but it's all common sense. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Because that's what was lacking before. There wasn't a lot of common sense. It was the leftists always went extreme left on everything because they had to.
Mm-hmm.
The right always went extreme right on everything because they had to. But the extreme right and the extreme left are not the answers. There's answers from both groups. And Donald Trump's kind of the cumulative effect. He's kind of in the middle. He's very centered. I mean, he really is. He takes what works from both sides and kind of mishmashes them together. So that's why I say, I don't really know if he's a Republican, and alt-right's a term that's been tarnished by people that have no idea what the alt-right is. I think there's going to be another term that'll come out of it.
Donald Trump has brought the party actually more center. That's a good thing.
Yes,
like, that is a good thing. And we still can represent the right. Like, that is an amazing thing.
I don't know if they're going to stay that way, though. I think there might be another party that emerges out of this. That's my point. I don't know that. I think after Donald Trump's time,
I would agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I would agree with that.
I don't know that they're going to stay that way when he's done.
All right, before we get any further in this conversation, I want to ask Kelvin. So, Kelvin, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay with the Democratic Party? Are you going to the Green Party? What is your mindset?
Well, I guess it really depends on how the Democratic Party responds to this current election cycle in the future. I mean, if they continue to try to push a unelectable candidate as they did this past time while ignoring the votes and the enthusiasm of the youth in the future, then I can't see myself supporting them, because if they try to push another Hillary Clinton or another boring Tim Kaine, that just doesn't get me excited. I don't see change there. I don't think they really care about the little guy, and that's really the big thing. I mean, the person that doesn't have power is being represented by this person, and if I don't trust their character, and their integrity, there's no way they're getting my vote. So, I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes in another 4 years, but if it goes how it did this time, it'll be Green Party again. Yeah.
As bad as wait a minute. As bad as the elections have been on both the Republican sides and the Democratic sides, with everything going on with Trump, and that party was divided, still divided. And the Democratic Party, with all the corruption, is divisiveness in that party as well. We all know that Bernie got a raw deal. Bernie should have won that primary. He should be president of the United States right now. We can all agree and be honest about that.
Yep.
But Kelvin, do you agree with John when he says that we could potentially see more parties come out of this?
Listening to you two just a second ago when y'all were talking about maybe a split in the Republican Party, and even considering the idea of a split in the Democratic, I really don't see it happening, because to have that split is saying that you're going to cut your voters in half, essentially, and, give that next election to your opponent, which would be, say, the Democrats if the Republicans split. And I just don't see anybody willing to take that risk and give the election away,
Yeah, maybe I should be more clear about that, because you're right. It would take some voters away. I think the overhaul of these parties is going to be so different that they're just going to have a new name for it. Like, I don't necessarily see, us having a 4-party system. I don't necessarily see that. I see the Republican Party being called something completely different because it's so drastically different from the Republican Party we knew 4 years ago. Does that make sense?
Well, you know what? That's a trait of history, though. I mean, the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln is not even close to what it is today. So I think it'll keep the name, but it will be forever shaped by Donald Trump's candidacy. I believe that. Yeah.
So you think that they're going to go on with this Donald Trump type of feel in the future?
I feel like they probably will in a lot of aspects. Because they do have to support the president, and he will be the president for at least 4 years and possibly 8. So I don't think they'll just go back on that, because that will become the popular opinion if that's what the figurehead of the government is, pushing for.
Sure.
I got a question about the Democratic Party, though, to Kelvin. Because Kelvin is, you know how when you watch CNN and when you watch Fox News and when you watch MSNBC, you see at the bottom, Democratic strategist. Well, that's what Kelvin is going to be for us because he follows the left a lot more than us because I'm more on the right nowadays. So he's going to be our Democratic strategist.
Oh, boy.
Kelvin, with them choosing Ellison as, I believe Ellison is his name, as the DNC chair, they're choosing all these different guys for different positions, and they're all status quo. They're still all a part of the establishment. There's nothing different. It seems to be that they're continuing down the same road that they have been, and they're cranking up the racism card as well. And it's pissing off the white working class even more and pushing them even more to Trump. So 2 questions for you. Are they going to choose another status quo person, an establishment figure, as their presidential candidate in 2020? And the Democratic Party as a whole, are they crumbling? Because they're further pushing the white working class away from them, and that is a very big demographic, though.
That's a loaded question. I would say that the parties, both the major parties, Republican and Democrat, are controlled by the money. So as long as money is a factor in politics, as it will be with that court case, and that the Supreme Court just went through in 2008. Oh boy, what was that court case? Citizens United. Once that went through and allowed for unlimited campaign contributions from super PACs, I think so long as that money is able to come through these parties and support their candidates, they'll continue to be influenced by those big money donors. So, I do see them continuing to pick insiders who will support and protect the policies and the interests of these big money donors. So I don't think that'll necessarily change until the Supreme Court makes it change. And I'm kind of scared at this point if Donald Trump appoints another Republican and maybe gets another chance to, if one of the elder justices passes away, then that'll be another Republican, and that'll shift the court over to conservative, and it'll uphold that money in politics.
Oh, love it.
Well, money in politics, I don't know if that's great on anybody's conscience.
No, but the thing is Donald Trump, and like we just discussed, though, he's wanting to take things different, and he's different than the Republican Party on that. He wants to overturn that because he thinks it should be completely out of politics as well. So that's a good thing for him.
Yeah, the thing with Donald Trump is he wants to take money out of politics. He wants to put term limits on Congress, and he's only taking $1 in salary and giving the rest to a charity. So it looks like things are changing, Kelvin.
Well, I mean, in a sense, he's got a lot of good talk, and he's making people feel reassured. But the money in politics, that's a First Amendment issue in the Constitution.
It is.
It's kind of deciphered through the Supreme Court, so it really doesn't matter what his opinion is. It only matters what that justice that he appoints.
But wait a minute. How is money? But wait a minute. How is money in politics a First Amendment issue?
Because the way the court saw it, it said that your ability to put money into politics was your freedom of speech. You are telling your opinion. You're giving support to.
They basically equated a corporation to a person, basically.
A person. Yeah.
So that's why it became. That's why it became.
Yeah, but do they not see that that's opening a Pandora's box? That's giving corporate America even more power than it already had. I mean,
you're right.
They already have more power than what they need.
A lot of justices did. It was a 5-4 decision, so it was decided by the conservatives.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
That's why I say that. That's why I say
there needs to be caps.
Telling people I'm conservative because
there
are things they do that I do not agree with.
There needs to be a cap on companies and individuals, whoever it may be. There needs to be a cap on how much money you can actually donate. We have got to make this safe.
Absolutely. I agree on that one.
Did you see during the election and also the primaries how many Hillary Clinton commercials there were compared to Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump commercials?
Oh,
there were Hillary commercials all over the place. You
oh my gosh,
she has
everywhere you watch
far more money.
Television.
Well, yeah,
she has more money than everybody.
That doesn't need to happen. That doesn't need to happen. We need to get the big money out of politics.
But Donald Trump proved that you can be president by spending a whole hell of a lot less money than what she did. Because he did spend a whole hell of a lot less than what she did. So he proved it can be done.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And what are the statistics, Sean? Like 90-some% of the money was his in the campaign?
Yes.
Like it was a dramatic
Absolutely,
number. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's another
but you know
thing.
what? Sanders would have done the same thing. I will give him that.
Yeah.
There's some things about Sanders I like, and that's one thing. He would have done the same thing. It would have been he got the raw end of the deal. I don't think he would have won against Trump, but he should have been the one running. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. If you looked at the polls, wait a minute though. If you look at the polls, because I want to get on that. Which
for a
we're
minute.
not.
And yes, I do.
You can't look at the polls.
A lot of the against Hillary and Trump, you could not look at the polls, but Bernie versus Trump, you could look at the polls. And the polls were not even close. Bernie was leading like 60-some% to 30% in every single battleground state. So I don't know if we could necessarily say, John, and I'm a Trump guy like you, and I do not like Bernie Sanders.
No, I know.
I hate to defend him, but let's be honest here.
I know.
Bernie would have slaughtered Trump.
I don't think he would have. I really don't. I think the polls definitely showed that, but the polls have been wrong, not just this election. They've been wrong previous elections as well. I just don't think it would have been. And if he would have won, it would have been even closer than what we had with Trump and Hillary. I mean, but he should have been the one.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
3 points.
Another thing, though, but you know how the polls were wrong with Hillary because nobody could poll enthusiasm. There was a lot of enthusiasm for Trump. There was no enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton.
Well, you can tell by the crowds that they drew, man. But Bernie Sanders,
the enthusiasm was amazing. It was Trumpian.
It
was
still wasn't as good as Trump. Still wasn't
Drew,
as high
just
as Trump.
3 points real quick. Just because you said that Bernie didn't take campaign contributions from super PACs and big money, and that was another thing that the Green Party did, and that's kind of one of the reasons I went to them too. But then also Trump using strictly his own money. I mean, you said 90% was the stat. That's a little scary to me, and paired along with the fact that he's not taking a salary. It sounds good on paper, but George Washington actually addressed the no salary thing because he said that by not taking a salary, it's almost leading to the idea that the president needs to be rich. And I don't like the idea that if you're not wealthy, you can't hold high office.
But the president is rich. But the president is rich, Kelvin.
Well, that's usually the case. But Bernie Sanders was not a billionaire, right? No president,
but he was rich.
to my knowledge, has ever been a billionaire. He's got a couple 100,000. Yes, he may even be a millionaire.
He's got 3 new houses and a private plane.
He
does not have 3 new houses and a private plane. He owned one house. His wife owned a house. He owned a house. His wife owned a house, and they bought a vacation home. After he finished the election, he's 75 years old. I think he can have a vacation home as a sitting senator for 30 years. I mean, that's not ridiculous at all. And then the private plane, that was something that Hillary Clinton, that he asked for Hillary Clinton campaign to provide if he was going to be campaigning for her. So that's not either ridiculous because if you're campaigning for somebody else, you're doing them a favor. There's no way you should have to pay for that yourself. So yes, he should have provided transportation for him and his team. Right. That's not even ridiculous.
That's crazy.
I want to do a liberal test on Kelvin. I want to have a little fun with Kelvin. Let's do a liberal test on Kelvin. I'm going to play this clip.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to see what Kelvin thinks about it. And there's a point of doing this. But here's the clip.
I'm very close to China. I have the biggest bank in the world as a tenant of mine in New York. The biggest in the world, a Chinese bank. Don't worry about that, baby. I love babies. So I love babies. I hear that baby crying. I like it. What a baby. What a beautiful baby. Don't worry. The mom's running around like, don't worry about it, you know. It's young and beautiful and healthy, and that's what we want. Okay. But they have ripped us to shreds. Ripped us absolutely to shreds. Actually, I was only kidding. You can get the baby out of here. That's all right. Don't worry. I think she really believed me that I love having a baby crying while I'm speaking. That's okay. People don't understand. But that's okay.
All right, so Kelvin, what do you think about that clip? When that had happened, what was your response to that?
I mean, as far as the comments on China or his interaction with the child?
With the baby. Well, of course it's going to be about the baby. What's the baby?
Well, I mean, he spoke about both, and I mean, you can have an opinion on either of those, really. About the baby, I mean, I really don't see that as a right or left issue. That's just kind of a human interaction thing.
I'm not asking it as a left or a right issue. I'm asking you your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts on him kicking a baby out of a rally?
Well, I mean, truthfully, it's almost like a movie theater situation. I mean, do you want a baby in there screaming while you're trying to get presented information, whether it be entertainment or, say, political? I'd say for the vast majority, they don't really care to hear that. So I think bringing a child to that kind of event anyway might have been the wrong choice for that parent. I mean, I don't really hate him for that situation at all.
Round of applause to Kelvin Gravely for being a level-headed liberal. Oh, I love it.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't vote for Trump?
I'm very, very confident I did not vote for Trump.
I have a prediction. 4 years from now, Andrew, take this down. 4 years from now, Kelvin will be voting for Trump.
I wouldn't put a whole lot of money on that.
I've already told him this, that he will be voting for Donald Trump.
There's no way
put a whole lot of money on that.
There's just no way you can be that level-headed and have that much common sense
Let
and
me
not vote for him.
ask you this, Kelvin. Let me ask you this: if let's say that Donald Trump makes America great again, and the country is booming, and everybody is happy, and the new black deal has worked, and the African American community has skyrocketed in wealth. Let's say that this has happened, and that the Democratic Party puts up Howard Dean as president of the United States. That's their candidate. Who are you voting for between Trump and Dean?
Oh, boy. I would consider the Green Party again, like I told you.
Oh, my God. All right. So
truthfully, I think those are impossible.
Wait a minute.
So it doesn't even matter?
So no, John, wait a minute. You sat here for the first hour of the show debating with us about race and how we need to take care of black people. Black Lives Matter. And I just said it's a hypothetical situation that Trump has the black community doing great. They've skyrocketed wealth. And you still wouldn't vote for Trump when he helped out
but
your
you
cause.
You realize that is an impossible standard that presidents from the beginning of our country have been attempting to tackle in different ways and different lengths.
But they're not Trump.
That's not remotely possible. There's no way one man can solve our race relations.
You know what else they said was not remotely possible? Donald Trump running for president. Donald Trump winning the primaries. Donald Trump beating Hillary Clinton.
I didn't at all think that was impossible because that wouldn't be the first TV personality we've had win the presidency.
No.
So I didn't think that was impossible at all.
It had nothing to do with him being a turbulent personality. That wasn't why people thought it was ridiculous, though. Like, I mean, it's just trust me. In 4 years, you'll be voting for Trump. If he's a great president and helps the black community, and you don't vote for Trump, then you are the racist one.
I'm telling you, do not put your money on that bet right there. That would not be a safe bet.
I think it is. Andrew's laughing. I know he loves bets.
No, because Kelvin is right. I mean, let's be honest here. He's not going to vote for Donald Trump. I mean, if Donald Trump helps out the black community, he said no, he's not voting for Trump. So there's no way to get
thing is, I don't think that's possible in a hypothetical situation even. I mean, that's just such a crazy, unfathomable distance away. You can't solve 250 years of race relations in an 8-year span, saying he even gets 8 years. That's not even doable.
Okay, here's the better question.
And then the way he talks, he's not interested in it.
Let's rephrase it then. What would he have to do for you to vote for him 4 years from now? And hypothetical, so you can be crazy.
Okay. I would say he needs to appoint people around him that are more inclusive, not so much anti-intellectualism, not so much anti-climate change, not anti-evolution. I mean, people that aren't going to pull for the right regardless of the issue. They need to weigh the situation. They need to see that there is disparity among how blacks die in the hands of police. I think that's an issue. So if he can address that, then yes.
Unpopular popularity.
Sorry, so that's continue to talk. That's the outro. Get ready to go out. Continue to talk, Joe.
Oh, okay, my bad. Well, yeah, I think if he addresses those issues, then he would have a better chance with me. But so far, he's only putting people around him that are not at all what I agree with.
All right, so we'll be back next week. Me, John, and Kelvin will be back next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll see what's going on in the political realm throughout the week. We'll be back next Saturday, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. here on New Media Central Blog Talk Radio.
Oh yeah. So this what the after taught us. You got a better chance. One lap to perennial waters. Hide your daughters. Join your cult. Let's have an orgy. My biography is gory. My life's like American horror story. You're not the father. That's word to Maury. Revolver ring 6 times like Robert Horry. Second Amendment, nigga, grab your gun. Invest in the vest when you from those slums. LSD amazing. Tabacus fragrance. Somebody tell Uncle Sam I want my reparation. 40 acres and a pearl white slave bitch. I bet your fans are racist when I give you this face. If you wanna wait for your problems, Bobby boy, you gon' face it. Lord knows I wanna erase it. Take him to a level of darkness he ain't fit. Remove the
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can seem intense. Like breakup R&B intense.
I thought you said you loved the sweater that I got you. If you didn't, you could have told me.
Geico makes it easy. Just go to Geico.com anytime to update or check your policy without all the extra drama.
I even had a gift receipt.